We started selling abandoned clothes online.
Yeah, with our reliable connection from Optimum Business.
Marcela, we sold another.
We're like a big deal, huh?
Yeah, we really cleaned up with Optimum Business Internet.
Plus, it has built-in security, so every online order is protected.
If only it worked against coffee stains.
You're taking your business to new places. Optimum Business is here to help you along the way.
I matched with this cutie on a dating site. We texted all the time, but never met up. Then he asked to send him gift cards for a plane ticket to see me. And that's when I remembered a tip I got from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Gift cards? This is a romance scam. Spent that money on self-care instead.
Recognize fraud sooner, so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Iron Mike Ditka, any predictions for this season?
The only winner I know this year is this. The Sugar House Sportsbook app, the most trusted award-winning app on game day.
The Sugar House Sportsbook app must be a winner. Mike Ditka would not lie.
Director Rick Klein and political consultant Hank Scheinkoff. Gentlemen, let's start with the big question that every American is dying to know. Will the economy and the budget just shut down? Will government shut down sometime very soon? Rick, let's start with you.
Democrats know that they can't let that happen, and I think they're going to be able to work something out. I think you're seeing this monumental fight between the wings of the Democratic Party. You've got one faction that says, look, this is too big to fail. You have another one that says it's actually too small to pass, and that's a really hard thing to square with the public. So I think Democrats come along, and there's a lot on the line for Biden. He's just got to show that he is a competent a steward of the government, and that Democrats can get things done.
No one wants to be in the minority. They don't pass this thing, the probabilities of going deeper into the minority on the House side for Democrats increases exponentially. Bravo to Nancy Pelosi for working this to get everybody in one place as best as she could.
Okay, let's move on to some politics of a wide variety of sorts. Let's start with the former president that we said earlier in the year we didn't think we'd talk about much about him, but we're talking a lot about it. Let's talk first with the subpoenas to 4 of his former top aides by the January 6th Select Committee. Rick, what does this mean? They can fight this, of course, but then they'll be found in contempt of Congress.
Yeah, Bill, this is this committee going deep into the inner reaches of the Trump inner circle, people that are close to him physically around January 6th, and of course also spiritually. They understand the Trump movement. They were in touch with people that day. This committee is going to get this information one way or the other. Big difference between this and those impeachment fights is that it's now the Biden Justice Department, not the Trump Justice Department, that's making decisions on executive privilege. So they can extend the process. They can fight it out. But I think almost certainly they're going to end up getting the information and the testimony that they want. And it is very, very close to Donald Trump himself.
And is it going to have any effect on the body politic, Hank?
Some people will pay attention, others will not, but those who are shocked by the behavior will be even more shocked. It's a great testament, frankly, to congressional investigators coming up with the information they needed to get those subpoenas validated and to get the questions prepared for deposition. They lie in deposition, they're in contempt of Congress.
Okay, one more thing about the election. Mr. Trump still pushing what Democrats called the big lie, that there was a rigged election and it was invalid, and yet we had a Republican paid for and pushed, not paid for, taxpayer paid for, but Republican pushed recount in Arizona, and there was a change indeed in the vote total, right, Rick?
Yeah, in fact, Biden did a little bit better than it looked like in Maricopa County. I mean, look, I think it's easy enough to laugh off things like this, and this was a particularly absurd one. They were looking for bamboo to see if the ballots had been in China, but this is deadly serious stuff. We shouldn't need audits 10, 11 months after the election. In fact, we don't need audits like that to tell us that Joe Biden won. It is a fact, but we're seeing an effort that continues with Republicans in many states and in many races to try to undermine confidence in elections. That's what this is about. It's not about overturning the election, which isn't going to happen. Biden won fair and square. Republicans are still trying to relitigate it, I think, looking forward to try to tell people that you can't trust what you see.
But it's a little, Hank, like the chipping away that a lot of states are doing. They did it in California. You know, $260 million they spent on trying to recall Gavin Newsom, and he was a landslide victor in that recall.
Well, the good news for the American system is that it's holding up despite all this attack. The bad news for democracy worldwide, well, it's not working. And we know that authoritarianism is a function, frankly, of democratic systems beginning to fall apart. This is dangerous stuff. We have to stop it for the protection of the republic for our future generations.
All right, final question. I want to talk about immigration because what we saw on the border was appalling to Republicans and Democrats. And, you know, if it had been Donald Trump, I don't think Democrats would have yelled and been more angry than they were at the president and the Biden administration. What's the takeaway on this, Rick?
Oh, I think this is a bad moment all around. I mean, there's nothing good about what's going on down there. And you're right, it's easy to have bipartisan outrage. And Biden is realizing how hard it is to govern once again. I mean, you inherit policies, you inherit realities. This is not something he wanted. He's clearly frustrated, but that doesn't change an awful humanitarian situation.
Hank, you have the final word on this. Will we finally see immigration reform to try to deal with this?
If the tragedy of immigrants or hopeful immigrants being whipped by people on horses with badges and guns, if that's the thing that stirs it, there's nothing else that's going to stir it.
Okay. Hank Scheinkoff, Rick Klein. Gentlemen, thank you for your insight on this edition of Up Close. Thanks a lot. And that's going to do it for Up Close this week. Tiempo with Joe Torres is next. If you missed any of today's programs, you can see it because I'm going to post today's segments on my Facebook page tomorrow. Thank you all for watching. I'm Bill Ritter, and for all of us here at Channel 7, we wish you health and peace.
Buenos días y bienvenidos. Welcome to another edition of Tiempo. I'm Joe Torres. Hispanic Heritage Month is here, and to help celebrate Orgullo Latino, we highlight today those who inspire others to achieve. A restaurant owner in Queens known as the Freakin' Rican has been serving up some delicious arroz con gandules, chicharrón de pollo, and so many other tasty delights for the past few years. The Boricua owner has also given free meals to those in need. He says his eatery serves as a lifeline for so many people. His inspiring story later in the show. Also coming up, teaching Latinos how to speak, read, and write English. We'll highlight an English as a second language program in the Bronx that is immersive, rigorous, and effective. Also on the show today, breaking barriers in the police ranks. We'll introduce you to Suffolk County's first ever Latina police chief. That's coming up in just a few minutes. But right now, this past week, an anniversary that is anything but celebratory. Monday, September 20th, marked 4 years since Hurricane Maria roared onto and across the island of Puerto Rico. We were there when the powerful storm made landfall and destroyed homes and businesses and tragically killed thousands of people. And we went back as the recovery and rebuilding got underway. Now, 48 months later, a renewed push by federal legislators to make sure Puerto Rico gets the help it desperately needs, keeps getting that help. New York Congresswoman Nidia Velázquez introduced a bill to help restore and rebuild the island, where there are still far too many reminders of the damage and destruction.
Hurricane Maria left $90 billion in damages, and the federal government has allocated close to $72 billion towards rebuilding. And you see the pictures here. Thousands of houses with blue tar. That is happening in America. And I can assure you that if we have this same situation in New York or in Connecticut, people will be taken to the into the streets, and that will not be acceptable. So, but then I also have a message. We cannot be paralyzed. We need to execute so that we are better prepared to sustain another hurricane.
What must Congress do? Pass comprehensive legislation that brings Puerto Rico into line with federal safety net programs. The Territorial Equity Act of 2021 will, among other important things, provide the territories with the same needed based, open-ended Medicaid funding that is currently available to the 50 states and the District of Columbia. It will address Medicare disparities and provide the same level of nutrition support to low-income families on the island. Puerto Rican families deserve to eat nutritious food too. What the people speaking here today, we all believe, is that more needs to be done for Puerto Rico.
Lots still needs to be done. The Velázquez resolution is co-sponsored in the House by Representatives Adriano Espaillat, Gerald Nadler, Richie Torres, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and others. We will stay on top of the proposed legislation as it makes its way through Congress. Moving on now to the free digital literacy program and software training courses offered by the New York State Office of New Americans. The program was recently expanded. The state launched the Immigrants Can Code program last year to ensure low-income immigrants, particularly those impacted by the coronavirus pandemic, have access to digital literacy and education and more advanced software training. The training classes are available now through next summer. We spoke to Vilda Mayuga, Deputy Secretary of State, about the program's expansion. What a pleasure to have the Deputy Secretary of State on the show with us. Vilda, un placer. Good to see you. How's everything going there?
Everything's going great. Thank you so much for having me, John.
Absolutely. We are so excited, first of all, about your office and what you guys have done there and the inroads in terms of helping the immigrant community. Share with me a little bit about this program and the expansion of this program. What are some of the services and resources that are available for immigrants to learn?
So, Joe, we're super excited because for the longest time, I think, generally a lot of individuals talk about our communities as low income, low skilled, right? And there's a large community that actually has higher degrees from their home countries. They can come here and they have been teachers and engineers and attorneys and architects, and they just cannot do what we call re-credential. Yes. When they come to the United States to perform those jobs. So they end up in very low income jobs as well. So we are going to be working with that population to make sure we can get them to where they need to be to get those better jobs.
It's so funny you say that because I've heard so many stories about, yes, professionals that come from Colombia, Venezuela, and they get here and they're having difficulty transferring their accreditation, if you will, in this country so that they can keep doing what they were doing in their home country. Do I have it correct?
You got it.
Yes. So in that regard, what are some of the things that you're teaching those professionals to get them so they can go to where they need to be?
So this is what we're going to do, Joe. We're going to be selecting our, individuals. We're going to be looking into what is their background, what are those skills that they're bringing. You have to have the employment authorization to work in the United States because at the end of this, we're going to get you a job, right? And we're going to assign you what we call a job coach. And that job coach is going to sit with you and look at your resume, work on your skills and be like, what do you have? Did you go to school for nursing? Did you go to school for education? Did you go to school for design? What is it that you were doing before, either your degree or through work, right? That experience that you're bringing. And now we're going to look at the job market where you live. What is it? Where is the need? Do we need more nurses? Do we need more engineers? Do we need more architects? And within those, right, we know there's subcategories of all of those professions as well. But we don't want you to look for a job in the same area that you worked on in your home country, just because that's your background. We want to make sure that you are looking and we're matching you where there is a need, because that's how you're going to find a job, right?
Okay. So, por ejemplo, you've narrowed down the locations and the fields that have a need. And then what do you do with the client in terms of preparing them to get the job in that area?
So we're going to match and make sure that if there's any courses that need to be taken, any certifications, any licenses, do we need, is it coding? Is it design for a particular type of program? Perhaps you do design, but you were not doing the software engineering part of the design to enter that market, to work in that area. Is it, even if it's architecture, is it a particular type of building? Are you talking about commercial? Are you talking about residential? Are you talking about amusement parks? We know that American Dream in New Jersey, right? Like that type of complex. There's different things that are out there in the market. So we're going to look at the specifics of each individual, give them that personalized attention so that we can make sure we can increase their income, because you'll be surprised that about 2 million of our population is underemployed or unemployed, and they have these college degrees.
Is any of this training online? Sounds like you definitely have some in-person contact, but is there any that's online as well?
It's possible. I think we're trying to identify, depending on the needs and where our partners are, depending on the region. We're going to have the 6 regions throughout the state focusing on those needs. So depending on what are the gaps that we identify for the training, we'll be sure to partner them with the right training, whether it's online or in person.
All right, when we come back, let's talk a little bit about the commitment that you ask from the students and your clients in terms of the training, because if you want them to succeed, they've got to get through the program. So we'll cover that when we come right back. When we come back, more on the digital literacy program, and still ahead on Tiempo, celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, we'll introduce you to Suffolk County's first Latina police chief.
Tiempo is sponsored by AARP New York City and the New York Lottery.
I matched with this cutie on a dating site. We texted all the time, but never met up. Then he asked to send him gift cards for a plane ticket to see me. And that's when I remembered a tip I got from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Gift cards? This is a romance scam. Spent that money on self-care instead.
Recognize fraud sooner so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
I need my Eyewitness News every single morning. It's so much fun with Ken, Charlene, Heather, Sam.
Start your day with Eyewitness News tomorrow morning on Channel 7.
If your child is at least 12 years old, getting them vaccinated against COVID-19 will keep them safer everywhere they go and whatever they do. The COVID-19 vaccines are effective at preventing disease, and millions of adolescents have already been vaccinated safely. The city is offering $100 to anyone who gets vaccinated. Get your child vaccinated against COVID-19 and receive $100. Visit nyc.gov/COVID vaccine.
Download the ABC7NY app for Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and Android TV. You get Eyewitness News and ABC News Live. Several developing stories all in one place. Following breaking news. Search ABC7 New York to download on your streaming device.
I'm Sandra Bookman on Here and Now, increasing the number of blacks and Hispanics in the tech field and how R&B's Cool in the Gang is inspiring young people. Today at noon.
Here and Now, sponsored by Calvary Hospital and AARP New York City.
Thanks for staying with us. I want to jump right into it. What sort of commitment are you looking for from, do you call them students or clients, who come through the program in terms of days, weeks? Is it a year? You know, give me an indication of how long I have to commit to make sure I succeed.
So what we're going to do initially is that you're going to have that initial intake meeting with your job coach. We're going to sit down and we're going to take a look at your qualifications, your background, what kind of documentation you have. We're going to make that assessment specifically through the interviewing and that intake to find out where are you at and how long we need to go with you. You're going to have these weekly meetings, whether it's with your job coach or to do the skills, you know, to develop the skills that may be necessary, or to go over some meetings and make sure we re-credential you if that's what we need to do. But it's going to also obviously depend, and that's what we're going to give that individualized attention. We may realize that you need to learn how to interview for a job. We may realize that we need to develop a little bit more your resume so that when somebody sees it, it's going to pop, right? And be like, oh, I'm going to pull this one, because we know it's just very hard. Sometimes we can be great interviewers, but we need somebody to call us for that interview.
Yeah, what are some of the things that you need to keep in mind as you go for an interview? Just some tips to offer.
Well, I will tell you that the biggest thing that we find with our population, depending on which country the individual is coming from, is to actually learn how do you interview in the United States.
Okay.
In some places.
What happens? Educate me.
I will combine this also with the resume. We've learned through our big partners, Upwardly Global, that some countries will include, for example, I'm married and I have 2 kids in my resume. In the United States, that is a big no.
No.
You don't really talk about your marital status, your family composition, none of that. It just does not matter. So we learn vocabulary. What are the pointers to have in your resume? Did you deal with budgets? How large was the budget? Did you supervise? How many people did you supervise? Did you have to do training? Did you have to onboard individuals? Did you have to create policy? Did you have to do data research? All of those things, and we try to pull that out of the individual to make sure and realize that you did a lot, but you need to be able to describe it. It's like marketing. It's like, how do I sell myself?
Absolutely. That's critical, right?
Yep. No, it is amazing. We sometimes forget, and again, depending on our cultures, we may be a little bit more shy as to how we share and how do we praise ourselves.
It does sound like you're literally holding their hands through maybe a simulated interview and going over not only the things that you should talk about, but the things that you also should not talk about, correct?
Absolutely, Joe. We will be doing mock interviews. We have the relationships through these organizations with employers in various industries. So we would have those meetings and those connections as well, so individuals know what to bring to the table and how to get those practices.
I'm guessing we have spurred the interest of some viewers who might be watching and perhaps might have more questions. Tell me where they can go to find out additional information and, if need be, how to sign up.
So this is what we want everybody to do. We want you to get on the phone. We want you to call our New Americans hotline, 1-800-566-7636. As soon as you call us there, you tell us, heard about professional pathways, heard I can develop more skills, heard I can get a better job, make more money, tell me how to do it. They're going to guide you. They're going to ask you certain questions depending on where you live, your background and all that, so that you can be connected. And while you're at it, we're going to identify any other needs that you have so that we can help you with any immigration application for a benefit that you may need help with. If you need to learn English as a second language in another of the relatives.
And the cost of all of this is?
A big zero.
Zero, free, gratis.
Our communities have done so much and kept us really afloat during this pandemic. And this is the least that we can do in recognizing their needs and bringing them up.
Vila, continued success to you guys. Thank you for the program and for what you're doing there and helping to get so many people in our community fully prepared to get the jobs that they can get, bring home an income that can provide for them and their family. Coming up next on Tiempo, celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, we'll introduce you to a Latina pioneer at the Suffolk County Police Department. And still ahead, teaching Latinos how to speak, read, and write English. We'll look at a unique and effective ESL program in the Bronx.
I'm Dave Choksi, the city's doctor.
I'm Isha Porter, the school's chancellor. As parents, we know nothing means more than the health and safety of our children.
COVID-19 vaccination among teachers and other staff, as well as all eligible students, is so important for getting back to school safely. The COVID-19 vaccines are a defense, both a personal defense against disease and a community defense against the spread of the virus. And with the FDA's full approval of the Pfizer vaccine,
Joe, tell your palate to pony up for the perfect punch of
evidence that the COVID-19 vaccines are both safe and effective.
Vaccination is part of our multi-layered approach to keeping our schools safe, along with the other measures we already have in place. Masks, physical distancing, screenings, testing, improved ventilation, and increased cleaning and oversight.
Thank you, and we'll see you in school.
At Emblem Health, when we say we mean health, we mean we're here to cover the moments that change your life. The appointments that let you know her first steps are right on time. And all the things that get and keep you healthy, like yoga and nutrition classes. Because at Emblem Health, it's not only your coverage that means everything to us. It's your health. We mean health.
My name is Maxine, and I'm a member of NYC Care. I'm undocumented.
She'd gone to